What's up YouTube, Shawn DaGamer here, and today we're going to be talking about the newest Netflix original series, 13 Reasons Why, based off a popular, I guess, novel by the same title by JDfromNY. This show came out maybe like 2 weeks ago. It was literally the last day of March 31st, I believe. 13 episodes with a few bonus clips and episodes. And this show, right off the bat, first of all, let me apologize for the audio quality because I'm using an older mic. My mic that I normally use, the USB part got pushed in, so I need to unscrew it and push, or get it back out. So we're just gonna go over, have a quick review of this. I've tried to do this like 3 times yesterday. I had a 30-minute review that I did. I was kind of liking it, but things just went awry. The audio didn't record, so I'm hoping I don't have that problem this time. Hopefully we don't go a whole 30 minutes, at least 15 minutes, so you don't have to worry about listening to this audio quality for too long. So let's get right into it. I'm using Wikipedia as a guide, so if I'm looking off and not at the camera, forgive me. So this show is based around a high school student, female named Hannah Baker, who committed suicide. So another thing I want to say before I actually start reviewing this show is very emotionally heavy, especially if you have recently been through something, maybe like a death in the family, a close death in the family, or you found a body that was somebody close to you. If you know somebody who's dealing with suicide, depression, and all those things. So a few of those things I am currently dealing with in my own personal. So I've resonated with this show a little bit more than others might would. So yeah, to jump in the show, we start off with Hannah Baker, who committed suicide by slitting her wrist after like months and months, if not years, or at least a year of abuse from her fellow colleagues at her high school. So what she does is she leaves these 7 different audio tapes. I should have brought an example of audio tape for somebody who doesn't really know, but most of the time audio tape, this is like my candle stuff, my wax, keep my room smelling good. So audio tape is about this big for all you newbies out there. It has 2 sides. Most of the time they're about 60 minutes per side, so you get 1:20, and each side describes how a different person in her life up to her death did her wrong, or what they didn't do to help her save herself. So there's 13 sides out of 7 tapes. 1 side is left blank, and we find out why during the end of the episode. So our avatar is the main character in the show, Clay Jensen. He's like this middle belt, middle of the rungs in high school, where he's not super popular, but he's not like low on the totem pole to be picked on every day like certain people are. He's just average. He's there working through high school. And first things first, spoilers are going to happen in this. So they are talking about 2 deaths in this video, well, in this show. You don't really think about one of them because you're so focused on Hannah, but the other one is Clay Jensen's best friend, or his close friend, died. I think his name was Jeff or something like that. He was like, if Clay was his mentor in school, Jeff was like his mentor in life, like how to talk to girls, how to approach certain situations and things like that. Yeah, Jeff Atkins. So he dies in a car crash, and we learn what actually happened. Learn what actually happens in that car crash later in the series, and it's kind of like a murder mystery without somebody. Well, there's so many things about this show. It's a murder mystery. It's a thriller. It's a self-reflecting thing, like showing adults who probably grew up in the 60s and the 70s and things like that, who probably had it a little bit easier in high school, and showing them how life is now with social media and things like that, and how that can really have a negative effect on kids and things like that. So like I said, Clay is our avatar, and the other person that is like our main character, let's say if Clay is like Anakin or Luke or whoever, you have another character named Tony, who Hannah gives the tapes to first, and it's his responsibility to pass them out to everybody else who's on the tapes. So Tony isn't like really a part of the reason why she died. He's more like, hey, Tony's gay, and Hannah goes through stuff, so they don't really have anything in common other than that. So I'm guessing Hannah used to go confide in Tony every now and then. So before she did what she did, she left the tapes at Tony's house with notes and kind of instructions on what to do with the tapes. So after he listens to them, he passes them on from person to person to person whose names are in the tapes, and how they effectively helped Hannah commit suicide. And it's just like, you see the downward spiral from the first episode where she has a friend. I cannot remember her friend's names for the life of me, but she had a friend who's moving out of town, and her friend had invited her over to her friend invited her over to this party that she was throwing, so she could start, you know, meeting new people, so she wouldn't be lonely in high school while her friend is going out of town. So she meets up with a couple of jocks. The first one we kind of get introduced to is Justin Foley. He's like one of the star quarterbacks or something like that on the football, baseball team, basketball team. They all do all the sports and things like that. So her friend, Hannah's friend, was originally interested in Justin, and she moved away, and then Justin started flirting with Hannah. And while they go on a date, they go out to this little park or whatever, and she goes down this slide. She has a nice little dress on and thing. She goes on down the slide, and Justin starts taking pictures of her, and one of those pictures just happened to be a upskirt photo. And from there, they go to school like the next day or a day or two later. He shows his friends, Bryce, Zach, who else was over there? I think Jessica was over there. Just a whole bunch of the jocks and things like that. And Bryce takes the phone out of his hands and sends it to everybody in the school from Justin's phone. And from there, instead of Justin like saying, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that to happen, he just like shrugs it off like, hey, whatever, it's nothing, get over it, yada yada yada. And that just starts the endless cycle. So from there, the next episode is like, it kind of shows this little friendship that Hannah had with these two people, Alex and Jessica. They stop, I guess, like sometime after the pictures, whatever, they stop hanging out like that, and Jessica and Alex start hooking up, but then they break up, and for some reason Jessica blames Alex, so I don't know what really happened. There was a note or something, and it blamed Hannah, and then we find out that this note was kind of like a best worst list made by Alex, and Hannah was put on the list for best ass. And with that, it got around the school, and people just start harassing Hannah like, you do got a nice ass, you do look good, yada yada yada. People start groping her and things like that, and then more people start to, como se dice, harass her or try to talk to her or try to get with her because they feel like she's easy. And then a few more episodes, we get things like the obvious stalker, the little kid, Tyler, who goes around taking pictures for the high school. I guess he has like this little crush on Hannah. He starts taking pictures of her, but while he's doing that, she starts feeling weird, and she goes to this other girl named Courtney, who's on the school board with a lot of other people like Marcus and Sherry, who are in the show. People I haven't talked about yet because they all have their own little tapes. And Courtney goes over. She's bisexual or gay. She has gay parents. And while they're over there trying to figure out with this whole stalker situation for Hannah, they start making out and things like that. And Tyler takes a picture. The picture gets around school. People don't really know who it is until like the dance and things like that. And it's like this like Valentine's Day dance, and somebody approaches Courtney for like a threesome or something like that, and he goes and whispers in her ear, whispers in the guy's ears, I'm not like that, it's Hannah, blah 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 blah. So people start harassing Hannah more, and then Dollar Valentine's happens while this dance is happening. And then this other guy named Marcus tries to approach her, but he's kind of just like, yo, I just want to see if you're easy or not, blah, 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 blah. So that, you know, all this, he like publicly humiliates her, like, I just thought you were easy, that's the only reason I went out with you, yada, 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 in front of this whole diner. So she's embarrassed again. And then we get another guy named Zach Dempsey. He's like this super athlete or whatever. He tries to be nice to her and things like that, but Hannah is at the point where she's starting to push people away, and he doesn't really know how to deal with that. Even though he's popular, he's still very introverted, if you know what that means. He's very kept to himself and things like that. So that really, you know, he was like, look, if you don't want my help, fuck you, blah, 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 blah. So just things start happening. And while this is happening, the people who have already listened to the tapes have this little, not like friendship, but this little coup, this little pact, like, look, we're gonna keep this all to ourselves, yada yada yada. But Clay gets the tapes and started messing everything up. He starts doing things like I just said. He went, let's go backwards a little bit. With Zach, when he found out what Zach did, he started to key his car. With Tyler, the photographer stalker, he takes a picture of him and sends it around the school while he's naked, butt naked and things like that. Sends that around. And then there's more stuff. And then there's this part where she's like trying to like find a way to channel her anger and things like that. So she takes up poetry and she meets this guy from her school who has like this little magazine or whatever that's not published by the school. It's his own personal project. And he goes and takes the poem that she wrote for this class, was very emotional, very touching, very personal, and publishes it anonymously in the magazine. Nobody really knows it's her except for a couple of people. They don't really say anything because she didn't really want it out there like that, but it really hurts Hannah more because it was very personal. And you know how high school people are. Instead of something being personal and something like that, the way she wrote it, they thought it was funny, hilarious, yada yada yada, embarrassing. So it's just another downward spiral. And this is where things get really interesting. And then we learned about another party that happened that Jessica threw, because at this point somehow Justin and Jessica start flirting and getting together after she breakups with Alex. They're together. Jessica throws like this back to school party or something like that, and at this party Jessica gets raped. And at this point we're thinking like, oh, Justin probably raped her while she was drunk, unconscious, things like that. But a few more episodes rolled by and we learned that it was actually this other guy named Bryce, who was like this total asshole. You remember when I said that Hannah was getting groped and things like that? It was by this guy Bryce, who was just this total dick who took advantage of Hannah and Jessica. So all the people who listen to the tapes know this, but they're, as bad of a jerk he is, he's like, I guess, powerful and things like that. His family has a lot of money, so they don't really want to mess with him. They're just trying to keep him contained and things like that, but it doesn't really work. So a lot of things happen at this party. This is like the real like breaking point for Hannah, because you see all these little things, but once she gets sexually abused and pretty much raped by Bryce, what happened? No. At this party, they start going, no, Jessica gets raped. And then another party happens where she goes home. Hannah, it's like a few weeks later. It's like after something happens, blah, 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 blah. I can't really remember at this point. After the party, Hannah gets a ride home from Sherry. And then Sherry's not really paying attention because Hannah's all distressed because she just saw her friend get raped. But she doesn't really want to tell anybody. And Sherry hits a stop sign. They don't call the police or anything like that. And then Sherry leaves. Sherry leaves Hannah on the street. Hannah goes to like this little convenience store that she's always at and asks for a cell phone. She calls the cops, but somebody already called the cops. So she's thinking that somebody called the cops about the stop sign, but it was actually an accident that happened that killed Jeff Atkins, Clay's friend that we were talking about earlier. So after that, she freaks out and all that stuff, and then that's when we learned about Jessica and the accident and Sherry's involvement and all this stuff. And after this, that's when she's walking. She's like, she feels really, really bad about this, and she's walking the streets. And then she ends up at Bryce's house, and he's having a party where he takes advantage of her there. Then he goes home. Then she goes home, starts writing these tapes or making these tapes, and about time she's like, okay, I feel better. I got it all off my chest. and she goes to the school and see what happens. I think something else happens to her. Her family is having problems. They own this little drugstore, but they're getting beat by the Walmart, I think called Wallplex of this show. And she's like, I can do this, and she just feels like a burden. Like she's doing all this stuff is happening to her, and it's happening to her parents, and she doesn't really know how she can help. She goes to talk to the school counselor, who doesn't really help anything. And after that, she goes home, writes the tapes, or drops the tapes off at Tony's house, and then goes home to commit suicide by slitting her wrist in the bathtub. Whew, heavy, right? Very, very heavy. So the last episode is pretty much after we figure this out. The parents don't know what happened until like maybe episode 11, which is pretty much the whole revelation of the party and what actually happened. And Clay finally, because Clay listening to the tapes now, he's one of the last people. He listens to the tapes and he goes to the counselor's office. I can't remember his name at the moment. What's his name? It was Mr. Porter. And Mr. Porter was the last person that Hannah actually talked to. So he's on the tapes because Hannah has this thing like, maybe if somebody actually cares, like I act all upset, yada yada yada, and I'll storm out, people will follow me. This happens with Clay at the party where Jessica got raped. They're having this moment. Clay and Hannah are finally like making out because Clay loves Hannah and all that stuff. And she just has these flashbacks of everybody that did her wrong. Tells Clay to get out. And that's when she was like, oh, he never came back. I wanted him to come back, but he never came. And all this stuff. So that's when Clay left, that's when Jessica and Justin came in her room. She hid. Justin was like, hey, let's have some fun. She was like, no, I'm drunk. He left. He let her alone. He was trying to watch the door. Bryce barged in, bullying everybody, and was like, hey, I want that. And pretty much took that. And she's distraught and all this stuff. So it's just a downward spiral. And it's just so many. You have to watch the show. This little review does not do this show any justice. But it's really emotional. But the show ends with somebody killing themselves. So there's another, or attempting to kill themselves. And the tapes are in the hands of Hannah's mom and dad and Mr. Porter. So the next season is they're dealing with this other death and the revelation of the tapes, because in the last couple of episodes, Hannah's mom found another box with like people's names on them. So she's already trying to sue the school and all this stuff, of course, about the wrongful death of her daughter because of all the bullying and things like that. So she gets this list of names that has Clay, Tony, and everybody else that I've talked about, and a few other people in there, all having to do confessions about how they knew Hannah and if they knew anything that would have helped contribute to her death. So there's a lot of going on. People are confessing. People are hiding. People are leaving town. People are dying or trying to kill themselves. It's just a lot going on. So season 2 is going to be very, very interesting. I had no clue about this show. I had no warnings about this show. It was literally one of those nights I was just up like I need something to watch to fall asleep, and I started binge watching like 4 or 5 episodes, and now we're here doing this review. So if I left anything out, please leave comments down below. If you like this show, also leave that down below. If you didn't like the show, you don't like this review, or leave a dislike, but let me know what you didn't like about the show and things like that. I really do like this show. It was very interesting. The first couple episodes are kind of slow, but once it starts going into the backstory and things like that, it picks up very, very quickly. So yeah, I'm going to end this review off here, about 20 minutes of bad audio, but I'll try to redo this a little bit shorter once I fix my mic. So be on the lookout for that. More videos to come. I might do a full like catch up on Dragon Ball Super next, and do some wrestling stuff and all that stuff. Maybe since the audio is going to be bad, I might just do some gameplay stuff just to keep the content going on the channel. And I'm also looking at new avenues to start publishing our content on. Maybe I was going to say podcast stuff, but not with this mic. So SoundCloud stuff and things like that might be coming soon. Just because of the whole YouTube situation, I want to try a few more avenues just to get my name out there anyway. So what's the perfect time? Then I'll still be looking for that stuff around you know, going forward. If you want to follow me on all the stuff that I do have now, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch, all linked in the description down below. Share this video out with your friends so they get in on the conversation. And subscribe if you're new here. And also hit the little bell button to know whenever a new video goes live. So, with all that being said, I am Shawn DaGamer, and I am